There's nothing on TV. This is terrible. I finished all my murder shows. I wonder what Chris and Lexi are doing. They're not here.
Oh, hey, you're home.
No. We talked about this. You call first. Out. Out.
I'm bored.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of If I Can Churn Back Time with
Brandye
and Jason. We've got some great guests for you today. Chris and Aisha are here with us today, and we're gonna make some ice cream, right? That's how this works?
That's how this works.
Sure, I think we got it.
We got it? Yeah. I think we can do this, yeah?
Today we're going to find out what happens when you have too many cooks in the kitchen. Brandye and Jason, thank you guys so much for coming out.
Hey,
Thank you for coming out.
You guys have a natural ability to start off the show because you do a podcast.
We do. Yeah, we have a podcast. It's called Behind the BJ with Brandye and Jason. It's our initials.
Mm-hmm.
We always tell people to get their minds out of the gutter.
Or not.
Or not.
It is about relationships.
And sex. Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
Yes.
that is true.
Dating, and
Yeah.
all of those fun things.
All of those fun things. But that
Check
is
it out.
check it out. Behind the BJ. Everywhere you stream podcasts. But yeah, that's how we met you guys.
Mhm.
And you guys were guests on our show.
Yeah.
Our first guests, actually.
The very first guest. We had an
And-
amazing episode.
That was so much fun.
We had a blast.
So much fun.
We had so much fun. And
It's a wine and cheese that night.
oh, we did have some wine.
A lot of
We had a lot of wine.
We had a lot of wine. I can't even remember how many bottles we went through.
And now we're here to return the
So-
favor.
And make
Yeah.
some ice cream.
So, reached out to ask, if you guys were interested in the show and then what kind of ice cream you want to do. And we got two different answers. Brandye, you said you wanted to do something with chocolate.
Always.
Chocolate
Always
lover
chocolate.
across the board.
100%.
And Jason, you wanted to do something with salted caramel.
Salted caramel. It's like the best flavor. Come on.
So to combine those two, I did some research and found chocolate-covered pretzel ice cream with a caramel drizzle topping.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Is that gonna
Okay.
work for you
So
guys?
All right.
excited.
I'm already salivating. So.
It sounds like a decent compromise, I guess.
Well, guys, to make this as easy as possible, to get that delicious ice cream as quick as we can, we've already laid out all the ingredients for you. All we have to do is put them together, heat them up, cool them down, mash them, and then eat it.
Can we just dive right into this? I'm excited.
I'm very
Dive
excited.
right
I want to do something.
Okay.
First thing we're gonna do
Yeah.
is mix in the dry stuff. So that's
Okay.
our sugar,
All right.
our dry milk powder, and our xanthan gum.
Okay, and this goes right in here?
That's gonna go right in there. Ooh, yeah.
Ooh,
Oh.
look at that little cloud.
Well, Jay's already a cook, chef.
Chef extraordinaire. No,
Extraordinaire.
not at all.
Have you
It's
done
very
ice
good.
cream before?
I have never made ice cream before.
This is the first word. So maybe add it to your repertoire.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't have one of those fancy ice cream machines, so
This may convince you to change that.
Yeah.
Once you-
maybe Christmas gift ideas. Mom and Dad,
New
throwing that
housewarming
out
gift.
there.
Just
New
saying.
housewarming gift.
Just saying.
All right, so now let's add in the milk and the corn syrup.
Right.
Look at that beautiful pour.
My goodness.
In
Corn-
goes the corn syrup.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So once that's out of there, go ahead and whisk it all together.
Don't mind if I do. So, all right, like, are we whisking?
Yeah, just to
Like-
kind of get the sugar all.
Okay, so we're not trying to, like, turn this into anything. We're just trying to blend it smoothly together.
Exactly.
Just blending. You just tell me when.
You're good. You're good.
Right now?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to move this over to the stove. We're going to heat it up for about 5 minutes until it starts to steam.
Awesome.
Okay.
Now, typically, guys, if we wanted to make a chocolate ice cream,
Mhm.
this is where we'd put in the chocolate.
Okay.
It would melt with the milk, and it'd be a really nice chocolatey base.
Nice.
We're going to wait to add the chocolate until almost the very end.
Okay.
Because it's going to do something a little bit different with chocolate that you can only really do with ice cream or like cold desserts. we'll get there.
What type of chocolate are we using here?
Today we're using dark chocolate,
Okay.
but you can
Perfect.
use anything. I kind of wanted to give it a contrast because you've got milk chocolate on the
Yeah.
pretzels,
Great.
and then you'll have dark chocolate chunks in there.
Awesome.
It's really
Nice little flavor contrast. I like that. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. There's a lot of contrast going on in today's episode. Our last episode, we talked to Farah, and she was talking about how when she makes things sweet, she wants them to stay sweet. She doesn't like blending the two.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm the complete opposite. I
Yeah.
love the contrast, the
Mhm.
sweet and the
So do
salty.
I.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm with you on that one. And I watched the episode, and yeah,
Mhm.
she was like, I just want it as sweet as possible. I
Yeah.
was like, oh god, that's a little too much for me
Same.
personally.
Same.
So I love having. That's why I love the salted caramel
Yes.
because it is that contrast of sweet and salty that just I think it works so perfectly together personally.
Now that we've got all that heated up, we're going to add in a cup and a third of heavy cream.
This was filled perfectly, Chris. There we go.
Thank you.
Just slowly.
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 Fold it in.
drizzle.
Just fold it in.
Little Schitt's Creek
Fold in
reference.
the cheese.
We make a lot of references to
Oh.
Schitt's Creek.
It's hard
The
not
problem-
to reference Schitt's
so-
Creek anymore.
Brandy thinks that she is Alexis Rose,
Yeah, I can see
Time,
that.
Alexis. I just
I-
get told.
just like that.
Just like
Yes.
that.
All we have to do with this now is put it into the churner,
Okay.
Okay.
let it churn for about a half hour,
All right.
and then once it's just about done, we're going to add in the melted chocolate
Okay.
and the crushed pretzels.
All right. So is this where the magic of TV? Basically, we go, and now all of a sudden we're just going to be ready to put everything in.
Yep. Yeah, we'll actually be able to pour the chocolate in 3, 2, 1. So we've added the chocolate. It broke apart as we added it because you've got cold and hot mixing together.
So cool.
And it doesn't ribbon, it doesn't stay
No, it's
together.
really
There's
cool
no, it's
watching
just
that.
like these little chunks that are gonna melt in your
Wow.
tongue. It's gonna be
Great.
so good. Let's smash some stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got chocolate covered pretzels. These guys are already pretty small. They don't need to be mashed up that much smaller. So don't crush them into a powder, but just kind of break them up a little bit so that you get a little bit of pretzel in every
Okay.
scoop.
So like, imagine that like an ex or maybe a political candidate we don't like is on here. Okay, so just
That hurts a little bit.
It's fine. They don't need to be broken up that much.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, right.
it's a metaphor because anger only hurts yourself. Therapy session.
It's a throwback to my
I mean, if your
childhood.
therapist gave you a bag of stuff and was like, break this and let's talk about your anger, I feel like I'd be
Oh, I
more
would
connected.
100% do that.
Are we just pouring?
Pour them in, we're going to mix them in there, and then we're going to freeze it.
We're gonna pour it in before we do. We gotta try.
Yeah,
I
see?
feel like that's going to be a little while. A lot of pretzel.
Oh, did you want some ice cream with your pretzel?
Wow,
Oh my
that
gosh.
is so
The
good.
thing is that this is like how I want ice cream to be, and
Mhm.
like if I go and get it,
Yeah,
where I just want all the goodness that's in there.
yeah.
So I love that we're making it so we can control all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got some control issues?
Should we dive in? Should we dive in, guys?
I think we could do one more bag.
We can.
Yeah.
I definitely have some control issues.
Guys, you made your first ice cream.
Yum.
So excited.
You can see the
That's
pretzel bits that are in
amazing.
there, the chunks of chocolate,
Mm.
and that creamy homemade base.
Mm.
There's just one thing missing. The
Oh.
caramel topping.
Oh.
Give me that.
Caramel.
Give me that caramel.
I went ahead and made this ahead of time.
A little salty.
And I was gonna make it as part of the show, and then decided not to save some time. And also, this is the third batch I made because caramel's a little tougher to make than you would think. So
Okay.
everyone, dip a spoon in there, drizzle some
Smells
caramel on
so
top,
good.
But so is it you basically what melt sugar and butter? Is that
sugar, butter, add some cream in at the end. But it's the melting the butter and not burning the butter that becomes problematic.
But again, magic of television. It's already ready. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm.
Oh my god.
That is so good.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You know, it's not just the contrast of salty and sweet.
It's just perfectly
It's
balanced.
also the contrast of hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cold
Yes.
ice cream with that hot caramel.
Mm.
Mm.
And the chunky pretzels, the
That's amazing.
texture. So good.
It kind of has everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're great. You should all be jealous right now.
Honestly, I can't wait and so we have like some sort of studio audience to be able to share with people.
Oh, absolutely. Ellen DeGeneres is ending her run, so I feel like NBC is going to need a show to fill that slot.
Heck yeah.
NBC, take a look here. All right, contact their agents. DM for details.
Were there agents?
We'll put our email address right here
Mm-hmm.
and shoot us an email.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're cute enough.
Well, I'm glad you're actually going to put an email address because this brings up how we met you guys. Right? So
Yes.
we mentioned Brandye and I have a podcast, but as we were in the sort of concept stage, we hadn't started it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was single at the time, which was why we wanted to have the podcast, because great stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm swiping through, I think it was Bumble. See this girl. Except
Hi.
one of the photos is not her, but your podcast artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately was like, hey, we don't have to date, but like, tell me about your podcast. She
Laugh.
never responded to me.
I
But
didn't.
no. But I did listen to the podcast, but there was never any contact information until the very final episode.
Yeah.
And then there was an email address, and I was like, I'm on it.
I don't even remember. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I'm not butthurt at all. But yeah, I think it's a funny story.
And I remember I got the email in my car when I was picking up a girl for a date. And I read it, and I was like, hold on one second. All right, you got to read this. This is like our second date. She didn't know me at all. And I'm like, this is so exciting. And she was like, wait, what podcast? Like, I
She's like, wait a minute.
I just wanted somebody to be excited with me.
Yeah,
So-
and we were so pumped to meet you guys, and we were like, oh my god, like other podcasters.
Other people.
It was so much fun.
Yeah,
It was like love at first sight.
it really was.
I'm just going to keep eating this, by the way.
I have more thoughts to add. I just, give me like
Yeah.
2 seconds. Oh, I was ready for a nap. It was really good. Because there was so much going on. It was like a meal.
It was
good.
Yeah.
it was so
It
good.
was my breakfast.
So much
Same.
contrast of flavors, so much
Yeah.
oh, it was great. But I've got that little sugar rush going on now too. So
I know.
All right,
I'm like,
let's-
Let's
hyped,
ride
ready
that
to
to
go.
its peak
Let's
before
ride that
we
wave.
crash. We've been talking a lot about contrast.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
one of the big things with us starting to work together with our podcast a million years ago was that we had the perspective of a male and a female to
Mhm.
kind of bring things into perspective. You know, I had my experiences, Aisha had hers.
Mhm.
You guys have a very similar dynamic
Yeah.
where you've got very different backgrounds, but you've
Mhm.
known each other for long enough that you have shared experiences
Mhm.
and differing experiences, and you work together really well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think it's interesting. When we were coming up with the idea for the
Yeah.
podcast, again, that started in a world where we were both
Both
single
single
and
and
experiencing
dating a lot.
all of these different, dates,
Yeah.
many bad dates,
Yeah.
and telling each other a lot of funny stories. We started the podcast like right as we both got into real relationships, so that changed the dynamic a little bit. But in the sort of process, I think, of kind of researching what we wanted to do, I started listening to other shows, and there was one show in particular. It's called Girls Gotta Eat. It's very popular. But it's 2 women, and it's so heavily skewed from the perspective of these 2 women, and not that they man hate, they don't, but I just thought that it would be great to kind of have a similar type of dialogue, but bounce ideas of like, what does this mean to you as a guy or as a girl, and kind of get that concept. And I think that, I just think that if we were doing it solo, first of all, you miss the dialogue aspect, right?
Yeah. Totally.
And the banter, or as
Exactly.
Brandye likes to say, the banter.
You guys have good bands.
So you would miss that, right?
Mhm.
And I think also, I just think having that
Yeah.
contrast of perspective, if I am experiencing something in my relationship, for example, Brandye can maybe shed some light on that as as another woman, and vice versa.
Yeah. And I would say also it helps that, we can communicate so well with each other anyway.
Mhm.
So we were already having these discussions like we were recording, and we're
Yeah.
like, why don't we just record this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give me a microphone and
Yeah,
let's do
yeah,
this
exactly.
thing.
So-
Yeah.
And
so,
that helps a lot.
yeah. And was so similar to what you guys had going on in your show at
Yeah.
the time. And so when we found it, we were just like, what? Someone else is doing this? This is
Yeah.
amazing. Let's hang out and meet
I
and be
know.
friends.
Yeah, I mean, we would film like we would record 3 episodes at once, and
Yeah.
time would just fly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a fun road. We started kind of right before COVID, like right in the very beginning of 2020, and so then the lockdown happened and we had tons of time.
Yeah.
We just recorded every single week. And then in the last couple months, life has just gotten busy. And so we haven't recorded in a while,
So
but
we've taken a little hiatus.
but
We're coming back.
we're coming back. We're coming back. We definitely have to have you guys back on the show.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
But yeah.
We love it. We really do. And it's, it's a passion project for sure, as you guys both know. And, it's one of those things I don't want to give up. And we just have to, manage it within life too.
Yeah. Because we also have full-time jobs and
that thing.
hobbies, which I know we'll get into in a minute as
And
well.
relationships.
And relationships.
And relationships.
Also that thing that we're supposed to dedicate some of our time to, right?
Yes, I guess.
Yeah, so speaking of hobbies, I mean, everyone's been insanely busy this year because we keep filling our time with all this extra stuff,
Yeah.
And so you have a new YouTube channel
Do.
where you're showing people your flying lessons.
Yeah, so
That's so cool.
my quarantine hobby, I was like, hey, let's pick something up. Some people maybe read some extra books. Some people, I don't know, learn to quilt. I decided to learn how to fly an airplane
Watch a lot of TV.
and become legally licensed to do so. Because
Amazing.
apparently I just don't like money very much.
Yeah.
So I enjoy handing it over to other people.
Yeah, sure,
Is just, it's like the charity of it. Yeah. No, it's actually, it's a funny story. And actually Brandy's very much involved in it because Brady's boyfriend is a pilot, not by trade, but he has his private pilot's license. And I've always been super interested in aviation. And we can get into kind of the background of that in a bit, but Brady's boyfriend had mentioned to me kind of really early on in quarantine that, he had kind of been out of practice of flying and for several years, and he wanted to reacclimate himself and kind of go through the ground school or the book work again. And would I be interested in doing that alongside him so that I was, gaining some of that knowledge as well? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we had a weekly Zoom session.
Yeah.
Actually, we did it over Zoom.
It's really cute.
Yeah. And he was like a flight instructor for me. He's not an actual flight instructor, but he took me through all this groundwork.
Yeah.
And I got super, super into it. And I started watching tons of YouTube channels with, in general aviation, private aviation. And thought, wait, I could do this. Because I watched so much YouTube to learn about a lot of this stuff. I decided, hey, strap a couple GoPros on this plane and film as well. So it's been fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's the channel called?
It's Javiation.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Javiation. See that? See? Yeah. I'm very punny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was this always a dream for you, aviation? Did you want to be a pilot when you were a kid?
Yeah. I did. I don't know. I grew up with parents who were expats, and we lived overseas for a while, and we flew a lot. And I loved it. I loved being in an airplane. And I loved being in an airport, actually. My parents thought it was so weird because
I really like that too.
on long layovers or delays, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Great.
And I loved it. And, in high school, my dad would take me to some local air shows. And I remember one time specifically, I went up in one of these small planes. It was like, pay like a penny for every pound you weigh. So for, I don't know, $1.50 at the time, I don't know. I get to go do like a 15-minute flight, and I thought this was the greatest thing ever. And when it came time for like junior year, you're looking at colleges and what are you gonna do? I was sitting down with my guidance counselor, and I explained, I was like, I think I want to be a pilot. And he's like, okay, and gave me one of these like personality assessments, right? Like that they do in high school, like not even a good, not like Myers-Briggs or like a good. It was like whatever, like the high school personality assessment. And I guess what it said was that I'm a huge extrovert. I'm very I want to be around people, and I'm not super focused on like math and science. I was more kind of verbal and that aviation as a career might not be the best option for me. And so, I shied away from it, and I went to business school, and, I guess, look, the flip side is that, like, I now have a job that pays me enough money so I can
Allows
afford to
you.
take flying
hobby.
lessons.
So if you had a chance to go back and
Would
do
you
it
have
over
become a
again,
pilot?
You know, look, I'm a firm believer that what happens, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And you can't tweak one thing in your past without changing the entire course of the rest of your life.
Butterfly effect.
The butterfly effect is exactly
Yes.
what I was thinking now.
Yeah.
Would I change it? I don't know. You know, I will never get to fly a commercial jet. It's just not something that's in my cards whatsoever. But like I like my life. You know, my life is good, my job is good, and my career has, you know, taken me places, and I appreciate that. I think that would have been a great experience as well. So I don't know. I don't know if I would churn back time and change things.
yeah.
So.
Whereas like right now you have a career and you're taking flying lessons. It could have been that you were a pilot and you're trying to take business classes because you weren't paying bills.
You're absolutely right. And here's the other thing, right? I think there's two schools of thought here. Some people say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Then other people say that when you turn a hobby into a career, sometimes you end up not liking it anymore and losing the passion
100%.
and losing the fun in
Yeah.
it.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And I think that I've heard that a lot with aviation, that like you do have pilots that, you know, after 10, 15 years, they've lost that spark of, you know, what you're doing, which is controlling an incredibly monstrous piece of machinery.
Yeah.
In
And-
the air.
Yeah, and doing what like
And carrying people
we
through
shouldn't
that.
like.
That's
There is,
amazing.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, yes, physics and science means you can do these things, but like in theory, in your mind, you're like, I should not be able to take this, I don't know how many hundreds of tons piece of machinery with 200 people in the back and like take it up to 40,000 feet. Like that shouldn't be a thing that happens. For me now, every day that I get to fly, it's like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe I'm happy just keeping it as like a hobby.
Yeah, I love that.
And maybe you appreciate it more because you didn't get to do it. Right?
Exactly.
And this is a thing that now you can like support.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I might need a second job to be fair, to support it, but I'll try. So yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah, it's been fun.
Can't say that I've been doing anything that cool, to be honest, guys. So kind of to piggyback off Jason, like I definitely agree that like I think everything happens for a reason and you learn lessons through life and through experiencing things, and I think the mistakes are often what help you to learn the most
Absolutely.
versus just like if you did everything right, like what would you take away from it and learn
Right.
from it.
What wisdom would you gain?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's kind of the beauty of life too, is that we get to experience these things and mess up and make it better, hopefully. So as you all know, and I talk about this on podcasts, I was married before. Even though
We keep forgetting.
she literally forgot twice today. And so that was in my like mid-20s. I was in a 6-year relationship. We were engaged for a really long time and married for only 8 months before the marriage ended. So definitely, if I could turn back time, I think there's a lot of conversations and just really open honesty that I would have had that now I feel through learning the experiences of that I have now and I've taken into my current relationship. But certainly back then, I was not being the truest self that I could be, and I wasn't having the, you know, I thought I was living a life for someone else and thought, okay, well, this is what you do in a relationship, and that's, you just kind of give up everything, and which was not
lose yourself.
what you do.
Yeah.
Lose yourself. And I think that, so while I can't say that, you know, I know if I would not have gone through with the marriage, but if I would have known then what I know now, it probably wouldn't have happened.
It's tough to have those conversations sometimes, and especially when you're younger. I think that, you know, you avoid conflict.
Absolutely.
And
you don't want to know the answer. You just want to be hopeful and be in love.
Well, and there's that
think
security
it'll be
aspect
okay,
of that relationship for me, that I felt that I needed that more than what would truly make me happy.
Right.
Which is hard, and I think a lot of people get stuck in that, and luckily I was able to see kind of like 10 years down the road, I look back and regret it, and it was literally the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, but honestly, I wouldn't be here now with you guys.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, I know that feeling very well.
Yeah.
I think when you look back on something like that, you can beat yourself up over like not asking the questions or not having that foresight, which I do as well. But like you were saying, I mean, post-divorce glow-ups are real. You know? I mean, look at you, right? You're like living downtown, you got this boat, got this man, like you're living. So,
yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of beauty and a lot of value in like doing it right the second time around.
Yeah.
And using the lessons that you've learned.
And I'm sure I'll mess up and make plenty of mistakes and
yeah,
we'll learn from those.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's why
I
we go to
don't
therapy.
think, yeah. And I think that, you know, I think that's what, again, kind of what life is about. Like, I think if we constantly strive for this like perfection, but what is perfection? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get kind of in that, you find yourself like, okay, like, well, I need to like learn something. And when things happen, you're taking something away from it and learning it.
Yeah.
And I think when you get focused on like what you need to attain in terms of that perfection, you miss out on like the present. Right?
Absolutely.
And like just like your life.
Yes.
And just living it and enjoying it and just being in the moment. And I know,
for sure.
I mean, that's something I've been trying to focus on a lot more.
Yeah, it's
right?
hard. Yeah.
Certainly, like, I feel like COVID has made us all a little bit more impulsive, a
Well,
little bit more like present, tense, focused.
Yeah.
You know, because we really, you
didn't know
what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is interesting. I mean, you have to learn from every mistake, right? They say there's no such thing as a real mistake if you learn something, a valuable lesson from it, right? And look, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to anything, I mean, you just got to get it right once. And so it's okay to make those mistakes, and you can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and that means that's in business, that's in relationships,
Yep.
that's in so many things.
I love that both your stories weren't so much things that you regretted, but just like pivot points for you. You know, it was, do I make this career move, or do I do the safer bet?
Sure.
And then you get to go back and do it later. You may not have the perfect marriage the first time around, but you get a chance to go back and do it later. And I think our generation is sort of changing that for the younger generation because growing up, I mean, this probably resonates with you guys too. It was like you get done with high school and then there's a set path, and it was usually something similar to either what your parents did or what they wanted you to do, which included college, which isn't for everybody, and then it was marriage, which isn't for everybody, and kids, which isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's realizing that there's a lot of different options for things to do. You don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you get to your late 20s and your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, and you have all these other opportunities to like do more stuff. You don't have to figure it out at 23
right?
and then retirement. Like, there's a lot of in between there.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that you guys not only have those stories to share, but you're still moving forward. You're still doing new things and living life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it's funny. We talk a lot about therapy and therapists, and that's one thing I'm in therapy. It's one thing my therapist loves to say to me. He's like, man, you've had a really like productive year when a lot of people felt really crippled and I took it as an opportunity to kind of jump out and like do a lot. I mean, did the flying thing, I bought a house, like, cultivated a relationship. You can take your experience and you have to just kind of mold it into what you want it to be, right? You can't just fall back and play that victim and say, there's a global pandemic and I can't do anything, and that's just one example, right? Like, woe is me. It's like change the narrative, change the story, and go out and make it what you want it to be. So
yeah, and worst case scenario, you have something that you regret that you look back on and that was a lesson.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like I'm a firm believer in not having regrets.
Same.
Because look, I have made mistakes and I've made bad mistakes. But you have to look back and say like, okay, well, if I hadn't done that, again, butterfly effect, what would have happened? Yeah. And so, I think no matter what, we are a product of every decision we've ever made in our past. So I try to.
You gotta live with that.
100% agree.
I think there's been a lot of like self-acceptance talk during these COVID times, right? Whether you gained a few or lost a job or lost a partner, gained a partner, left that part, whatever. Whatever version, you had, I think I think at the end of the day, we're all just kind of like, this is who I am, and you know, and that's okay.
Well, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. And, you know, you're on your way to Michigan. You're going to go fly something. We've got dinner plans. So let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
We're going to continue this conversation probably much more in depth in an audio format on their podcast. So make sure you guys check out Behind the BJ. There's an episode that we were on from like a year ago. And then, like, what did you guys have? Like 20-some episodes?
We've had 20,
Yeah,
we've had like 26, 27, something like that. But seriously, if you only listen to one episode, Doppelbanger is the name of it. Please listen to it. It's like, I forget which episode number it is, but it's called the Doppelbanger, and it is hilarious. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for having us as well. This has been super fun. Obviously, the ice cream was incredible.
It's so good.
And for the rest of you guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back here with another guest or set of guests and more ice cream flavors and more ways that we would churn back time.
Can you even believe that Chris and I they tried to make it like it was their show?
I don't even understand. I mean,
first of all, everyone knows it's our show.
Obviously.
I mean, we're like the stars, right?
Yeah. That's what I got from this.
I mean, I always feel like the star.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.